get started. Come on in, have a seat. I hope you took the time to stand in that line at Starbucks. And I hope you brought me some. Good morning, everybody. My name is Christina Llewellyn. I'm the Senior Director of Marketing and Communications for NCRA. And I'm really excited to be with you this morning at the lovely early hour that it is. We have some really interesting, exciting, game-changing initiatives afoot, and you are getting a sneak peek at this concept, this initiative here this morning. What we're about to do is share with you a big initiative, and we're going to have a lead researcher from Ducker Worldwide come up here and speak to you for a little bit. First, I want to just share with you the kind of origin of this project. Almost 2 years ago, not long after Jim Cudahy took the reins as CEO and Executive Director, he and the then Board of Directors put together a task force that was the goal was to really come up with some big, game-changing initiatives for education. And we thought, knowing court reporters who love to abbreviate everything, we would call this something, a huge mouthful. There's no way they could abbreviate it. So we called this the Vision for Educational Excellence Task Force. And the court reporters immediately called it VETFA. So, totes abbreviates. I know you love your abbreviations. But the idea behind VETFA is that we were going to look not just at new tactics, not a new brochure, not a new audience that we could try to target to get more folks into and successfully out of court reporting programs. The goal was to really shift the paradigm, to come up with something huge, and to let the public know that we are not dead. This is a viable and very important critical career option. So we got to the place where of the VETFA outcomes, there was a couple different areas. One focused on instructional excellence, and another focused on ways we might kind of filter and funnel the folks who are considering court reporting as a career. But ultimately, we landed on a marketing approach, and that's what I want to talk to you about today. So just know that the VETFA initiative actually came out with a couple of different outcomes, but the thing we're going to talk about today is the marketing side of things. What we thought is if we could put together a 5-year outlook, if we could basically project supply and demand for the court reporting profession, that perhaps we could say to potential students, look, there are jobs for you. You may hear some stories about this profession dying off or digital coming into the courtroom, but there is indeed demand waiting for new court reporters coming through programs right now. So we're going to talk about that. What we actually did was go out and hire a firm by the name of Ducker Worldwide. The lead project manager on our project is here, comes from Michigan. She came today to talk to us about the findings of this report, which was many months in the making. And then I'm going to kind of round up this presentation with the fun stuff and talk about what we're going to do about it. So now that we have this data, now that we know where we're going to be in 5 years, what are we going to do about it, and how are we going to drive more students into court reporting programs? It's exciting, it is game-changing, and I am so excited to share it with you. So we're going to start by introducing Ann Mannix, our project lead from Ducker Worldwide. And because we are just so brilliant, we're going to talk data at you at 7:30 in the morning. Are you ready? Okay, do you have your coffee? Did you bring mine? So whomever falls asleep first is going to go get my latte. So go ahead, keep an eye on your neighbors, and show me a big hand when somebody goes down, okay? Ann Mannix, everyone.
Thank you, Christine. Getting her off the stage is not an easy thing to do. And before I begin my remarks, the only problem I have is that after we did this study for your profession, several of my research team said, hey, skip research, I'm going to try my hand as a stenographer at court report. So, thanks a lot. Ducker Worldwide has done a number of studies like this. We've been in business for 53 years, and really we've done about 200 studies per year for companies that ask us, what is our opportunity out there? What is the demand? The Brick Industry Association wants to know, what is the demand for bricks? Who's going to be doing it? Who's going to be supplying it? The ceiling tile industry wants to know from us, what's the future of ceiling tiles? Who's making that? What service or profession do I need to be in the future? And so essentially that's what we're doing here. We're looking at an opportunity assessment for the court reporting industry. And we've been in business for 53 years. We are across a number of countries. We do studies in many languages. And this was a very exciting study for us with some pretty exciting news for the team. What I'm going to do is give you an executive summary, kind of summarize the data quickly, and then we'll go through and build the supply and demand so that you have some numbers to take away with you to go back to your states and kind of talk up this profession. As Christina mentioned, the purpose of this study was to what we call do a market opportunity assessment. That is really the current state of your profession and the potential demand for stenographic court reporting services. And how do we do this kind of thing? This is kind of the what we live every day. We call it primary research. And what that means is that we look at all of the people in your profession, whether it's court reporting certification boards, court administrators, court reporting agencies. We talk to a lot of schools, we talk to law firms. I spent a lot of time talking to litigators for insurance companies. What do they see as the future? We talked to a number of you in this room. We talked to competitive, what I would call industry-related associations. We talked to people that were, producing the machines.
A little closer to the mic.
Oh, thanks. Oh, sorry, I've been told I have a big mouth, I guess not enough. So we've talked to all the people surrounding your profession. As I say, the manufacturers, we talked to captioning firms, and all of this we did with our interview team to get a feel for the industry outlook. So we were asking them questions, what do you think of the future? How do you buy services? What court reporting agencies do you use? What qualities do you look for? Then we combine that with what I call secondary research, and that is some of the data from NCRA, state data, any kind of public data that's available in the marketplace. The legal industry has its own numbers. We looked at that as well. So if you look at the primary research combined with what I call the secondary data, that's how we got our information. The other thing that NCRA asked us was to develop a model for the future. So we took some of this information and we plugged it into a model so that as we get more what I would call granular data from the states, we did not do a census obviously for the whole entire United States, but as we get more granular data, we can plug that into our model and project even better. So let's look at the study findings. Christina's talked about this a little bit. Currently we see that there's a balanced supply of court reporters and stenographers in the United States, with the number being about 32,000 stenographers, and the demand being about the same. Although I'm sure in some of your areas that you have seen some shortages and some surplus, but the overall balance is about 32,000 positions right now. What we see and what's so exciting is that a small increase in legal activity combined with the decrease in supply is going to give us the big number that we've been talking about for so long, and that's that number of 5,500. That's the number that should stick in your head, because we see a little bit of increase in supply and a change in demand. That change in supply we'll talk about a little bit because it's from decreased enrollments and maybe decreased graduation rates and increased retirements. We are seeing an opportunity for new court reporters, which is astounding over the next 5 years. And I will tell you, in our industry, in the research business, we very rarely get to go to a client and say, oh my gosh, look up, you've got an incredible situation. And many times we're saying, I'm sorry, you have to change the way that you do business because your model isn't fitting into the future. Or the product that you have isn't really the product that's going to be needed in the future. That is not the case here. It's exactly what you're doing has very high demand, and we see it along the next 5 years. And one of the things that we found when we talked to a lot of the lawyers is that they like it just the way it is. The lawyers want, they don't want to change. When we talked to somebody that did a lot of work in the insurance industry for malpractice, and we said, how do you go about getting your depositions done? He said, well, I tell my admin to call the firms, and they send somebody over, and they're always on time, and they're always good. I said, do you have some requirements, or is this a process that you think about? He said, why should I think about it? It always happens, and it's perfect. So there's a very high expectation in the legal profession that we noticed, and when we talked to them, we obviously approached them a little bit about what do they see any encroaching technologies. They're very uninterested at this time to do anything other than they're doing. That said, their market is changing too, so we have a notable transition in all of these marketplaces. The larger law firms are facing pressures or cost pressures, and they're breaking out some of their costs. But that also means that they're pushing some of the document services and many other things to court reporting agencies and other agencies handling this sort of thing. So I think that's just one thing we feel that the profession, your profession, should be aware of, is that there's continual changes that we need to be mindful of. In addition, new technologies are helping your profession and hurting it. So the new technologies that are coming out are certainly going to be better able for you to do your job, but then we see some encroaching technologies, obviously, from digital recordings. They currently have not made, we're seeing them make progress, but right now there's no kind of perfect fit for each courtroom. I was talking to someone yesterday. Each courtroom has its own situation, and so there's not somebody that's come in and really made this a turnkey operation at this time. In addition, we see new opportunities for increasing the demand for court reporting. Some of that's going to come from the captioning business, and certainly that's a small percentage now, but there's a lot of excitement about that profession. And when the FCC recently came out with their rulings, kind of because of some of the dissatisfaction that you see on the captioning on TV, there's going to be stronger regulations for the broadcasting community, and they're going to have to do something. This will be driving some of the captioning. And we expect that the rate for captioners will increase the demand in total. So really what that means, and again, these numbers may sound a little clinical, but if you get it in your mind that we've got a matched supply and demand right now of about 32,000. And when I say matched, what I mean is that as we went through and talked to all of these people we mentioned, no one said, the lawyers didn't say, we can't get anybody. They're not here on time. The court reporting agencies didn't say to us, we're in a bind, we don't have people. Now some of them did. But overall, we're not hearing from the quote-unquote end user that they're struggling yet. So in 2018, we project the demand is going to be at 33,200 court reporters, but the supply is only going to be at 2,770. So this is where we see this number of the 55. Graphically put, and this is going to be a great piece for going to schools, going to future court reporters, where you can see this opportunity. This is a robust opportunity where you can guarantee someone a job right out of school, which if you have anybody right now with 4-year degrees and they're struggling to look for a job, I mean, I looked at your magazine, some of these entry-level positions, 3 years experience, $45,000, $55,000, $65,000 in the journals looking for people. This is a remarkable and frankly untold story. So these are the kinds of pieces of ammunition that will be for going out there. And our view is that this needs to happen quickly. This is a call to action. So this is not something that, unfortunately, you don't have to develop a new product. You have the profession out there. You just need to get some people in it and graduate it. So, and I think that too, the profession, and I've listened in some of the seminars, the profession needs to, I don't know, re-embrace the fact that it is very, very admired in the community that it serves. So those are the things that we saw in the marketplace as we look at other industries. So let's look a little bit at how we build up supply. And again, it sounds a little industrial, but that's the way that it works. In the United States right now, we use that number of 32,000, and we've divided it up so that you see that the percentage is really primarily stenographers and a small percentage of voice writers. So that's the overall. And then as we look at the demand, or excuse me, the supply, we see, and this is no surprise, that half of the court reporters come from California, Texas, New York, and Illinois. But it's just interesting for you to see a little visual example of how this is spread out. And we talked to many people and certainly in the major states, and then in some of the smaller states we did some modeling, and then in some cases we had people that actually helped us count up the number of stenographers when they knew it existed.
Excuse me, is that based on certification?
I beg your pardon?
Some states don't have certification for reporters.
Right, yes.
So I was wondering if that was high because those states have certification.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna have you make your questions and I'll get through to the end and with Christina and then write down some questions and we can kind of go with the flow because we have 27 states that have certifications and we can count those a little bit easier. But then there are other states where we've had to do some modeling and talking to people in the industry. In the supply segmentation, you see that about 28% are still considered official. Again, that number is driven by the high number of states that do not, that allow officials in the courtroom. We see 45 states that have digital penetration, but the bulk of the business being freelance. And generally speaking, those 4 major states account for a great deal of the officials. And some of the numbers and some of the mischief that we saw in the marketplace were places where, for example, the courts fired all the officials, but then they hired back freelancers to serve in the courts. So there's the counting is always a little bit interesting. So in your state, it might not have this percentage, but we're just talking about the overall mix in the United States. Certainly the penetration of digital recording we've seen in some areas in the courtroom. Now, we have not seen a lot of indication of digital recording in other areas, but in the courtroom, obviously there's a high level in Alaska, Florida, Kentucky, Michigan, Oregon, and Utah. Now, that said, we heard, and couldn't really quantify, we heard some pushback. We heard of some courts that as they are evaluating the overall cost of their equipment, repair of their equipment, maybe these cost numbers aren't looking so good. And then we've also seen some states that have gone back and forth. I'm sure that you have seen that too, where they've done some digital recording, it hasn't worked. Entire procedures are coming out on this area. But I would have to say that we talked to a lot of court administrators that weren't necessarily happy with the way that it was going. So there's some, I don't know, I felt that there was some opportunity there just because it's not working as smoothly as everyone says it will. Now looking at the supply again, this is one of the big areas that you've been talking about. We see that currently there are about 2,500 students enrolled. That number has been declining. And we're really getting about 300 new students into the workforce. The declining enrollment rates you guys have talked about, it's a little bit of lack of awareness, emphasis on 4-year degrees, which I think is shifting away again because of the high student debt. The graduation rates have remained about the same. Between 45 and 60% of students enrolled graduate. The number that's a little shocking is the number of 20% pass rate on the certification. And so 27 states requiring a certain certification. Now that number also we found, again, when you look at this and you pull it apart, one of the indications we had is that many people sign up for the test, but don't actually take it. So it skews the number. So if 60% of people sign up for a test, but then they get, oh, I'm not ready, I can't take it, it pushes those graduation rates down, or excuse me, those certification pass rates down. So that's another piece that where we saw an opportunity to kind of dig into the numbers a little bit that's going to make your story a little bit better. Someone unfortunately mentioned the graying of the population yesterday, an unfortunate term. However, we do see that the average age in your profession right now is 51. And so that it's highly likely that in the next 20 years that we'll see a great deal of retirement. So 70% of the current steno population is over the age of 46. So that's a huge block. Given this demand, maybe you're going to be working longer. But that's a huge block. And we are kind of put in the retirement age at some actually higher in this profession. So the numbers could even be larger. But we see a big block of court recorders retiring in the next few years. Now this is not some kind of an eye chart, although it kind of looks like it. What we're trying to project here is even if demand does not change, we see that over the next 5 years, 300 students per year come into the marketplace. That's our 1,500. But over 5,100 court reporters will retire over the next 5 years. That's one of the elements of this gap or shortage, because even if there is no increase in legal activity or demand, there's still going to be opportunities or gaps, whatever you want to call it, of 35 to 4,000 positions. So that's the supply side. So industrial speaking, the supply is diminishing, and then let's talk about the demand. When we talk about demand, what we've done is look at what we call legal activity. Legal activity is comprised of many elements. General economic conditions certainly is a high impact. When you have the insurance industry comprising nearly 3/4 of the depositions, driving those depositions, the health of the economy helps them decide how they're going to spend their money. The more profitable they are, the more likely they are to spend money on depositions. We certainly see, we monitor the trial activity. We look at appeals. We look at tort trends. You know, there are many states that we model all the states and their tort trends. So some states who have developed maybe over 10 tort reforms, we say they have a culture towards tort reform. That affects the model. There are some states that are less likely to have tort reform, and certainly the political culture will impact that. But those are all the things that we measured as we look forward. Each state has, I say, what we say, a specific culture to tort reform. We looked at malpractice legislation. We looked at crime statistics. Now, crime statistics doesn't necessarily affect depositions as much, but it's certainly going to affect behavior in the court. So all of those things combined helped us understand demand. And I just put here some of the economic growth rates. You know, we've been in a slump, and we're seeing that our economic indicators are starting to go up for 2014. So back to that number that we have right now, supply and demand balanced at this number in our heads of 32,000. In the future, if you look at the segments, certainly we see the demand for card captioning increasing, as I said, not only within the court system, but outside the legal activity. Demand for the freelance court reporters increasing as deposition and legal activities increase. And then certainly there's some threatening to the digital recording in that industry, or certainly in the courts. and that's something that's going to have to be addressed. But the overall growth, and this isn't a huge growth that we're projecting, and this is something we can monitor in the next 2 years. The overall growth for 2018 should move up to a demand of about 33,200 court reporters. You're going to get sick of this number. Supply and demand balanced, supply and demand not balanced. 5,500 positions. And again, this graphic that we look at in our business as astounding. I mean, again, the call to action, as Sarah Nugent said yesterday, we need to scream from the rooftops, really, about our profession, or your profession. Oh, not my profession. About your profession.
Turned her.
Yeah. Oh, and get the message out. And it's a critical time for that to be happening. And so I think the speed is going to be important. And as I say, we see it as a true call to action and in the profession. So those are my comments. We'll take questions after Christina is done. And I will say that it has been a very exciting project for us. We've seen such passion throughout, not just the profession, but opinions about the profession. And our office was truly kind of overwhelmed with this kind of a study. It's a little different than bricks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So that's a lot of data. And it can be a little scary. When you hear words like the gap and shortage and pending retirements, these things can be a little nerve-wracking. But there's a couple options that we have in the profession, right? So we can go ahead and stick our heads in the sand, and maybe we have been doing that for a while. Or we could look from an outsider's point of view. You hear Anne and her team coming here, and she's not from this profession. She didn't know anything about it before she started working on this, which is what we wanted. We wanted an independent view of the profession. And so what the outside world says is the outside world will occasionally call you stenographers. We prefer stenographic court reporters, sure. But ultimately, we're talking about the same thing, and Anne and her team come to us and say, whoa, I mean, you guys have an opportunity here. You really do. Tomorrow you'll hear, those of you who were in the NCRA meeting yesterday, and those who go to the premiere session, I guess today, you'll hear Sarah, your brand spanking new president, talk to you about the nursing profession and some of the efforts that the nursing profession took, oh gosh, when was it, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, to really turn around folks who would consider nursing as a profession. So we have this interesting reality that settled in. This report came back to us, and we could have gotten scared, and some of us will get scared about these numbers. But what we thought was, we have this world-class report that is not in any way affected by NCRA's opinions. It's independently produced, right? So we have this opportunity where we could probably go out and talk to some of the key audiences and actually have a message that resonates. Might be a little bit of a scary message, but it's a good message. I'm going to tell you what NCRA is doing starting today, starting right now. We're kicking off a campaign. Right now I'm being live streamed to any NCRA member who could not be here in this room today. And we have a free live streaming happening so that folks can understand what we're about to launch. It's very exciting stuff. I'm very, very pleased to talk to you about it. Our idea here is that we should really go with a nationwide rollout of this message. What's the message? The message is that this is a viable profession with opportunity. And it comes in a really interesting, perfect storm kind of a setting. Not only are we coming out of one of the ugliest economic downturns that we've seen in a few generations, so there is a certain anxiety that the population as a whole, yeah, we're starting to buy cars again, our housing prices have finally gone up, but we're worried, we're still nervous, it's a little too painful, it's a little too fresh, our kids are going to school and spending a lot of money for degrees, and we wonder, do they matter? This is an amazing opportunity for court reporters. We just heard that this profession matters. There is equitable, one of the things that you'll see, by the way, the summary, the executive summary of what Ann just presented to you will be available to you shortly. It's being finalized right now. This is all kind of a sneak peek pre-launch. Our big public launch date is September 8th. So in the next couple weeks, you will get your hands on this data. And in that executive summary, you'll see this cool chart, and it lists 4-year degrees. Veterinarian, which I guess is probably more than a 4-year degree, teachers, in terms of salary, and you have stenographers, again, they say stenographers. Stenographers ranks right up there with these, legit 4-year degrees that cost a lot of money, and we're right there. We have an amazing story to tell. We're really excited to tell it. So we thought what we would do is go out with a national campaign, and the thing is, we're not Coke, so we don't have billions of dollars to spend on marketing, but we have you. We have a very passionate audience. We have a very passionate group of people who love what they do. And so if we could go ahead and take this campaign and kind of approach it 2 ways, we would likely have success. In the first column, I know that might be a little difficult to read. We have the lights sort of high so that our folks on the live stream can actually see me and see what's happening up here. We thought we would go with 2 approaches. One is a national approach driven sort of by NCRA. And this is, we have this data, we're going to make some pretty ads. I'm going to show them to you in a minute. We're going to put together some cool messaging. I'm going to show you that too. And we're going to go do something with it. We're going to use the marketing team that we have in-house at NCRA. We also have partnered with a fabulous firm based out of Florida called Stern. We're going to partner with that team, and we're going to do some Google tracking ads, and we're going to talk to parents and guidance school counselors and potential students. So we'll do that, and that's one leg of it. But we're not Ford, and we're not Mercedes, and we're not Neiman Marcus, and we don't have the money that we would need to make the impact that we would need to make to really fill this gap, to meet this opportunity that the Ducker Report talks about. So instead, we're going to help you, we're going to bring you guys in, and we're going to do this together as a group. And so this other column is where we're talking about individual court reporters helping us. Not spending money, not placing ads, but with grassroots efforts like, who has Facebook? Could you, like Court Reporting and Captioning Week, could you change your profile picture for a week? Or your cover picture on Facebook? Could you talk to a local organization if we gave you the tools to make it super easy? Quite possibly, right? So we're going to make sure that we put together a resource box, a toolbox of ways that either you as individuals or our schools can get involved. I'm going to talk to you about some of those details in just a minute. What we did was we started with a campaign development phase, and we're just about wrapping that up. And what we're doing today is what we call the internal launch. The first thing we had to do was communicate with the court reporting profession. We had to make sure that you all understand what's going on. Because no doubt, as we talked to state leaders yesterday, and as I've talked to schools, I had a webinar with all of our certified and participating schools last week. This could be scary, talking about a shortage. Okay? Will our competition use that against us? Will courts freak out and decide that they must kill all court reporters right now before the shortage comes? So yes, this is a possibility. We were concerned. Your board of directors knew that this outcome could be spun negatively. But if we team up together and we get the messaging right, we truly have a once-in-a-generation opportunity to cut through the concerns of our own profession and get out to the public, because this is a profession that is appealing to potential students. Researchers who have 4-year degrees in economics are sitting there learning about stenographic court reporting, and then they do their weekly calls with me and they're like, I think I might go to court reporting school for reals. You're not going to say for reals in court reporting school, I'm just saying. But this is exciting stuff. It really, truly is. Our next step is September 8th. It's going to be our big, big push. I'm going to tell you guys about why it matters. There's some exciting stuff coming on. So here's who we're going to talk to quickly. We're going to talk to a couple different people. We're going to talk to a couple different groups of people in different ways. The first is what I have called the redirects. Call them whatever you want to, but we all know they are pushed down a path toward college from the time they are probably in 6th grade. right? They may not know what they want to do with their lives, but they go to four-year school because it's what's expected of them. It's maybe where they grew up, how they grew up, but they really don't know what they want to do. And some of these folks go to two-year programs and don't know what they want to do, and some of these folks go to four-year programs and they don't know what they want to do. But ultimately, they come to a point whether they fail out of college or whether they just hit a wall and they've run out of taking electives like basket weaving and yoga, there's nothing left, and they just say, what do I do now? This is a prime audience for us. That is one of the audiences that we will talk to. And they really are looking for a career that matters. At this point, they're getting nervous. They've already spent some time and effort on an education that really isn't getting them anywhere. They're looking for earning potential. They're looking for job security. Naturally, we also want to talk to those high school students. It's a hard concept. It's a hard approach because high school students are weird. And they're different than we were, and so it's tough. It's tough to break through the clutter of today's middle school and high school student, but we're going to do that too. We're also going to focus in on what we would call the career change folks. I think we all know these stories, folks who have something happen in their lives where suddenly they're in a position to want to look for something different. School counselors are a key audience in this campaign. And we have learned that school counselors in an area like Fairfax, Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C., perhaps a little bit more affluent in terms of the socioeconomic kind of landscape. Those counselors have a certain goal, deliverable, way in which they are rewarded for good behavior and good performance. And then we have school counselors in more rural settings. And the way in which they are celebrated and rewarded might be different. In other words, they might not get lots of cookies for sending kids to four-year schools, where in this other area, those school counselors might get lots of cookies for sending, and that's, of course, my analogy, Starbucks. Might get a lot of Starbucks for sending kids to four-year schools. So there's differences in the school counselors depending on what motivates them, where they're working, the environment in which they're working, and we have a plan to talk to that audience as well. And naturally, the last kind of key audience here. So, can anybody think of a parent who's going to let his or her kid go to school, like right now, without some kind of awareness of what is at the end of the tunnel? I mean, we have these helicopter parents, right? Where students can't even really go to a soccer practice. I mean, like, show of hands, like when I pretty much didn't see my parents the entire summer. I came home to eat a sandwich at the end of the day, right? Like, did we not all grow up that way? And if you died, your friend would go home and tell your parents that you were dead, right? Well, today it's not exactly like that. I'm a parent myself, and I admit that I probably helicopter just as much as all y'all in the room. But the point is that parents also need to be convinced. They need to have their eyes open to the very professional career that awaits them in this space. We're not dead. This profession is not dead. So here's our key markets, and now here's the fun stuff. Here's the fun marketing stuff. This is our campaign. Court reporting. Take note. What I love about this campaign, this is kind of the platform. We're going to build different messages on all of these, on this one main campaign. So you can see that both the font and the little speech bubble, right, it looks like a text message for your phone. We've been looking for a way to kind of connect texting and the speed of communication with, especially, voice-to-text translation kind of stuff, with something very contemporary and iconic. And this idea of the text message, the text bubble, is something that we thought would really work well to capture the attention of the public. We're not trying to speak to you. This campaign is not trying to speak to our internal audience. We're trying to cut through to the external space. And the Court Reporting Take Note campaign is how we plan to do that. In our campaign, we have 5 key messages. This is marketing speak, unique selling propositions, but it basically means, like your keep it simple, sweetie. What are your 5 points? And here they are. Number 1, court reporting is a job opportunity that exists for the near and long-term future. There is security there. This job is not going away. Anybody try to read to Siri while you're driving down the road with the windows down? How well does she do? You know, and you're like reading a text message to your husband or whatever, and he's like, what do you mean you want me to fry the cat? She's not there. We need to talk about the job security that exists. There's also flexibility, not only in how you execute your job, the career choices that you make, the paths that you can travel within the stenographic court reporting profession, but also in terms of how you become trained. Schools have flexible options, so there's flexibility in terms of how you receive your education. There's significant earning potential. Again, this is a message that we sometimes get a little nervous about here in this room. Oh, don't talk about money. But to the outside world, you have to understand that you all are earning as much or more than many Americans who have a 4 or 6-year degree, right? That's important for us to talk about. Something that's very, very, yay! Something that's amazing is in what you do is also the ability to help others. I think part of why there's so much passion in this profession. I've been here at NCRA for 2 years, and I have fallen in love with you all because you are so passionate about what you do, and I'm so convinced. I mean, you are making our legal system work. You are giving access to those who need the access to communication, and I think that resonates with especially our younger generation. They want to know that what they do for a living matters. They're not just shoving papers. And so having that sense of value and worth is important. Now what's interesting is that different components of these 5 key messages resonate with different audiences in different ways. So what matters to parents is a little different than what matters to those who are looking for a career change. So I know this slide is a little difficult to read, but where you have a career change person, or if you look at the associate's degree person who took yoga and basket weaving and then got a little bit like, what am I going to do with my life? That person is definitely looking for some job security and some earning potential. There might be a little bit more pressure there to actually do something with your life. Where if you look at some of the high school, or if you look at the career change folks, the folks who are looking to maybe re-enter the workforce for one reason or another, a message about helping folks and really giving back to society may resonate with that audience a little bit more. So what's great about this campaign is that I'm about to show you some collateral, and it can be targeted depending on the message, or depending on the audience to whom we're speaking. So for our first one, if you hang with me, we're getting to the cool marketing stuff. Our first message about having job security and opportunity, this is coming directly from those Ducker findings. The data, we probably all we're chugging Starbucks pretty heavy when we were going through that data because it's a little scary, it's a little nerve-wracking, but here's why we're telling you about it. Here's what we want to do with it. The Take Note campaign, court reporting. Take note that there are 5,000 new jobs in just 5 years. The creative sub-copy for this particular message point, job security is at your fingertips. Come on. I mean, isn't it so cute? I love what you guys do. This is what the creative copy might look like. This is an example, one example of how this message might, that's gobbledygook in the middle there. If anyone's trying to start proofing it, don't worry. This is the sample. You know, the idea here is that if you look at the image, it's obviously a young girl, she's pretty, she's got some electronics in her hand, but you know, the coloring of this photo, does it not remind you a little bit of Instagram? It has sort of that filter feel, you know how right now you can take a photo and you can put a filter on it so that you sort of adjust it and make it look sort of gauzy, you know? So this is a contemporary approach to imagery. If you don't like it, that's good, it's not for you. Just saying. And what's interesting about this particular creative copy, I want to show you one little tweak on this ad. This one might be ideally suited to, for example, some high school students, 17, 18 years old. Let's say we wanted to take a Google ad and actually adjust it more toward a 13-year-old, a 12-year-old. Here's how we would do that. Okay, 17, 18, 13. Our next bucket, our next message, you can set your own schedule. Not only with your actual job, with the profession, but with school, with how you go ahead and become a trained and certified court reporter. This creative subcopy on this is plan on flexibility, which definitely hits the type A's in the room and the type B's in the room. You can plan on flexibility, kind of a fun play on words. The way that this might play out, see guys, state leaders, I promised you there were men. Come on, look at you. Yay! Yesterday's presentation was all the examples were women. And I'm like, oh wait, we do have men. I just grabbed all the ones on the top of the pile kind of thing. So we do have some guys. So that's how plan on flexibility may play out with this Take Note campaign. Here's another example of that. Earning potential. To the point, starting average salary is $45K. There's been numbers thrown around. Obviously, it varies depending on region. But for what we're trying to do in terms of get out to the public, these are numbers that we pull from the Industry Outlook report. And the creative subcopy on this one, talk isn't cheap. Come on. And that's how it plays out. So it's a fun little play on words, but you'll notice that she doesn't look like she's messing around. So what's amazing about this kind of a campaign is that you can have a neat little like tongue-in-cheek sort of creative subcopy, but you have a woman who is looking pulled together, and she is looking focused, and she's looking content, and this is like, look how awesome and happy you will be if you come over and become a stenographer court reporter. In the arena of helping others, this messaging, especially skewed towards some of the younger audiences and those career change folks, provide access to those who have hearing loss. Creative subcopy is lend a helping hand. Just in case you missed it. Here's how that copy may play out. There are many examples within, I'm just showing you one visual representation for each of these, but there's definitely some other opportunities. Finally, my favorite, a character building career. I love it. Court reporting most certainly rewards good characters. I mean, I just have never met a more dedicated and just super professional group of people. This is the best kept secret. We truly do need to let folks know about what is waiting for them in this space. Character building career. All right, so there's some examples of what we're going to do with this campaign. Let me tell you where it's going to go. First of all, a lot of folks were very excited last night at the reception and said, where can I get it right now? Okay, so where we can get it right now is crtakenote.com is a resource center, courtreportingtakenote.com, crtakenote.com. That website is emerging. So what you can go there. In fact, I think that it was like a landing page up until today, where like it was a countdown ticker when it goes live. The idea is that's where we're going to push all the leads from this campaign. I'll tell you a little bit about that in just a second. You can go there. There will be a resource center, and a lot of the materials that I'm talking about, including the executive summary of what Ann talked to us about from the researchers, that executive summary will be there shortly. But you'll see when you go, right now, there's some coming soon, coming soon, coming soon. Let me just quickly tell you why we did that. So we want to, knowing that there is this possibility that there could be some negative feedback. Oh, shortage. We're not using that word, it's opportunity. We wanted to make sure this was a coordinated effort. So we're telling our internal audience, we're talking to you, we've had conference calls with our school leaders, some of them more than others, and in terms of just getting really tapped into this messaging. So we need to prepare together before we can kind of pull back the curtain and let the Wall Street Journal know what we're doing, right? And so this resource center is available to you, but you'll see some coming soon. You'll see some things that are emerging there. So keep posted, but by September 8th, that sucker is going to be completely pulled together. The idea here is that we are going to take this message about this unbelievable job opportunity, and we're going to go to the major media markets and pitch them on stories. We're dreaming big on this. We can never guarantee PR placement, But we are not going to start with the tiny papers. We're going to start with the Today Show. And we're going to start with the Wall Street Journal. And if it doesn't work, we'll try the next level down. But we are going to go out in a big, big way. And we are going to say, this is a job opportunity with career potential, the five messages. We're going to go tell the media about that. We're going to also focus these efforts in the 4 states where we will likely see the biggest shortfall of court reporters in 5 years. During Ann's presentation, you saw she mentioned, and we had a question on this, how do you know? They broke down these projections by states. And not surprising, the states in which there are the most court reporters right now are also the states that will likely have the biggest shortfall in just 5 years. So we're going to make sure that our PR and paid advertising efforts focus in on those 4 states. But we are also going to, this by the way, all about schools. So we are going to support where we have brick and mortar school locations. We're going to make sure that we do big media blitzes in those areas as well. Our time frame a little bit looks like this. We're going to go very hot and heavy with this campaign this fall. Then, as you come in toward the holidays, you don't stand a chance, right? There's no way that we can compete with Target commercials or, advertisement. And plus, paid media at the holidays is astronomically expensive. So, we obviously can get a much bigger bang for our buck if we spend the money away from the holidays. So we're going to go in a little bit of a timeout. We'll keep going with some social media and some PR, but we're going to go into a little bit of a timeout through the holiday season and then ramp it back up in the spring as students are making decisions about their activities in the fall. This publicity and marketing campaign, so that, I throw around marketing terms a lot, so I wanted to just take one quick moment and share with you what I mean when I say marketing, when I say publicity. We are going to have, this campaign includes public relations, which you generally, you get for free, articles, write-ups, paid media, which is where we take the ads that we have put together with our controlled messaging, and we actually use Google tracking ads or, put it in a newspaper or run it on a TV. That's the paid side of things. We have a fully functional social media campaign, including ways to get you all involved so that you don't even have to think about it. We are conceptualizing an event that we're going to do at the national level first, but then kind of make it a little bit templatized to make it easy for the schools to go ahead and recreate it if they're interested in hosting these events. And obviously, we've done all the graphic design for you, schools primarily, states who are interested. We have this resource center that has every size and shape of advertisement you can imagine. You can plop in your own information and place it wherever you want to place it, and we've got a standalone website. I'm going to get through this kind of quickly, but the basic concept is this. We're going to do the national thing. We're going to go ahead and just issue press releases on NCRA's behalf, and that'll start September 8th. But in conjunction with that, again, going back to the fact that we're not Ford or Neiman Marcus or Target, we're going to make sure that our campaign materials are in a templatized form. So both press releases, it'll be like fill in the blank, where we write a very successful SEO optimized press release, and we write it for the schools, the state leaders, you as individuals, and we'll stick it in this resource center, and then you fill in the blanks, and then you have a press release. Ta-da! And if you don't know what to do with that, then you go ahead and send it back to my PR team at NCRA, and we'll take care of it for you. We'll get it out to the media in your area. The idea here is primarily for schools. The main goal in all of this was to create a resource center that was turnkey for our certified and participating schools. Some schools have a whole fleet of marketing people lined up and ready to go, and other schools don't. And so if it's a school that doesn't have a whole army of marketing, social media, PR people, then we'll make these tools available to them to kind of come self-serve. If you don't know what you're doing, don't worry, we got your back. We'll help you take care of it. Val Stern, the team that we partnered with for this publicity rollout, has had very recent hiccups with some big names, which bodes very well for us. We're obviously going to go out with these key findings from the Industry Outlook report, but I want you to understand that the Industry Outlook report, this is interesting because we're presenting it together. The Industry Outlook report is a report, it's data. Okay, fine, we're going to put the executive summary on a website, that's cool. The report is not the news, right? Again, the Ducker report is not the news. The news is the opportunity, right? The report definitely provides us with some independently verified facts. This is not just the NCRA saying, no, we promise there's jobs, come. We have someone else saying there are indeed jobs. This is a viable opportunity for folks who are well suited to what this career calls for. So we have the report's important, but the report is not the news. The opportunity is the news. So we're going to make sure we focus on that as we move out to the public. As we wind down here, I just wanted to make the point to all of y'all that the schools, we have the schools covered. If they don't know what a Google tracking ad is, which by the way, do you all know what a Google tracking ad is? It follows you around on the web. So for me, it tends to be shoes that stalk me. Because I look at them on a Wednesday, and then for the next 4 days, that pair of shoes shows up everywhere I go on the internet. It's very scary stuff. If you don't know how to execute that, if the schools don't know how to set up a tracking ad, not only will we provide the Google-sized ad, but we will also do step-by-step instructions of even just setting up an account, let alone placing a Google ad or putting what keywords around it you need to put around it. We will make sure that we have those resources fully available to the schools. We'll make sure that they have web banners and social media banners, and we'll help them understand how to make sure that you place the right message in front of the right audience. This is my most favorite part of this campaign, and I'll look it up. In the auto dealer space, some of you have heard me use this example before. If you are a Ford dealer in San Francisco, there are marketing dollars available to you from Ford, from headquarters, because they want you to not go and run your own little, shoddy, put together ad on TV. They want you to run the Ford ad that they paid millions of dollars to put together with a car running down the street and all the slick graphics by Ford. If you run the ad that the Ford dealer puts together for you, then Ford has a vested interest in it because clearly it protects their brand, and they will pay for it. They will pay for part of it. There are marketing co-op dollars available to the local San Fran Ford dealer to run that ad. We've taken this concept, and thanks to the NCRA Board of Directors, we've set aside a pool of money for schools to do the marketing co-op concept. What this means is as long as they run the Take Note campaign, they'll take a template off of our resource center and put their contact information down at the bottom, Christina's Court Recording School. I can't even say that with a straight face. So they take their contact information, put it at the bottom of the ad, Christina's Court Recording School. As long as it's the Take Note campaign, they can run it wherever they want, however they want, and then they can come to NCRA and ask for us to reimburse half. That's our marketing co-op, thanks to your board of directors. So we have this great big campaign that we'll be running on a national basis on behalf of schools. But let's say, we're doing Google tracking ads and we think we're slick, we're running a Twitter campaign. But what if a local school is based in a rural area and finds that its best source of leads is the county fair? NCRA is not going to go to the county fair. Well, at least this person from NCRA is not going to go to the county fair. But if that is where the leads for that program are coming from, or a billboard on the side of Route blah blah, if that billboard is the best source of leads for a school, we wanted to make sure that those materials are available and that we make available a pool of funds that would support those efforts. We want to make sure that both the school and NCRA has some skin in the game. Right? So what's really cool about the marketing co-op is that this is a big, talk about a big game-changing idea. This is very different than anything that we've ever done. We're going to start with it for now, and there's a fairly limited pool of money, but also somewhat substantial, and we're going to start playing with it. It's available to certified and participating NCRA schools only, because it is membership money. And we're going to see how we do. But ultimately, we're going to partner with the schools and try to get our message even farther out into the public than we could do on our own. It's a great partnership. We had a webinar with school leaders last week. Can I show of hands for those who were on that webinar call, school folks? Oh, thank you for coming, guys. You've heard this all again. After we're done, I'd love to hear some of your thoughts. That call went very well. The energy was palpable. It was just, it was very, very exciting. I'm going to fly through this fairly quickly because I wanted to make sure that I leave some time for questions. I know there will be plenty. There will be a social media campaign starting right here at this event. What I'm asking you to do, we're not going public quite yet, it's going to be September 8th, but we are kind of public with our internal audience. So here at convention, there's a little campaign running. If you may have seen this morning on your way in, the whole Take Note campaign, there are sticky notes hanging all over the convention. We have permission to stick them all over the hotel. In these areas of the hotel. And so what you need to do, there are 5 core messages that we talked about today: flexibility, job opportunity. Find those 5 sticky notes. They're 5 different colors. Go find the 5 colors of sticky notes. Then go see Sarah Wood or any of the membership and marketing team down at the membership booth in the expo hall. It's the one written in steno that none of us actually can read. And if you go there, you'll get a free t-shirt. We're encouraging you to, if you're a social media kind of person, we're encouraging the use of the hashtag CR Take Note. So go down, talk to Sarah, get a free t-shirt, get your sticky notes, and let's get this social media thing kicked off. This is kind of evolving. We do intend to put together some kind of an event that would basically create some buzz among local media. So I can't expect that, Wall Street Journal is going to cover every tiny little event that we do. But local newspapers love little, community contests and events. So we're kind of bundling that up. We're going to run it a couple times with the Bow Stern team. And once we perfect the event, then we'll bundle it into a little package and make it available to states or to schools, whomever might want to host one. This resource center that I talked about earlier, there's the website once again. If my New York accent was going a little too strong, crtakenote.com. It's basically launching right now. In fact, the folks who have tuned in today are watching this presentation through that website. The idea behind this resource center is that here's kind of the raw structure of it. Let's go to this. There's going to be the public-facing side where we push all of our campaign collateral, kind of says visit crtakenote.com for more information. So we push the public there, whether it's students, whether it's school counselors, parents, they all go there. And they can find out more about the profession, but they can also, the main thing here is that they can find a school. Let me quickly tell you how that works, because there's some concern about how this works, so we'll just kill rumors right now. And that is that when a student goes to this website, there's a fun little quiz that's basically kind of meaningless, but it does funnel their interest a little bit. It asks them questions like, what's your favorite show on TV? And it's got 5 options. And what's your favorite subject in school? And it's got a few options. And, how do you find, is the sky blue or red? There's a couple kind of random questions that sort of funnel folks' interest. And what it would do, and obviously we ask for a zip code so that we can connect them with a geographically a nearby school if there is one. And if there is not, then the algorithm of how the site works basically will pull up some online programs or some surrounding area programs. And what ultimately happens is at the end of this little lead process, the student or the interested user gets the names of 5 schools. At the very same time, those 5 schools are going to receive an email that says that this student, Christina Llewellyn, came in and asked questions, and you're going to want to go ahead and follow up with her. This process will be transparent and it will be fair, the lead process. It is random, everyone will get the same number of leads, but if we were to take every single student, and this could be thousands, we are flooding the pipelines here, right, with this campaign, that's the goal. If we were to take a ton of students and then have every single court reporting program contact them, we run a very high risk of them saying, oh, spam. It's like reaching out trying to get an auto quote, and then eventually you're just like, oh, it's not worth the $10, right? So what we plan to do is kind of funnel their interest a little bit, make sure we know where they live, clearly. But then we will take the 5 nearest or the 5 best suited schools or the online programs if there's no brick and mortars nearby. The idea is that each student will get 5 leads, and at the very same time, 5 schools will get that lead, and it will be fair, and it will rotate, and we will be transparent about it. Does that make sense? Because there's definitely been a lot of questions like, how do we get the leads? The whole point of this is to get the schools the leads. And we don't want them dropped. We don't want them ignored. What if we get a legit warm lead and then, school A thinks school B's got it under control. We cannot drop these leads. So the way that we're doing, and by the way, this can evolve over time. If we find the system isn't working for one reason or another, I'll hear the feedback and we'll deal with it. But for right now, the idea here is let's go with real quality responses. And I have a feeling that there will be more leads than schools know what to do with. That's the goal of this. Very roughly, this is kind of what the website looks like. It's still kind of emerging. It reflects the campaign. And here's to wrap up, here's what I would love to have, and we'll ask some questions here, but the base, I don't think it really goes without saying that you all are the best source of leads for this profession. It just is the reality. I mean, I think we all have stories of someone who asks you about what you do for a living and asks you questions that are like just a little bit beyond casual about how you became a stenographic court reporter. And so we're really looking to get the community of NCRA behind us. We're going to start the sticky note campaign here. I encourage you to visit the Resource Center, check out the collateral and the content that's there. I talked a lot about the ads and Google tracking ads and events, but you know what? The bottom line is that there are resources there for individuals as well. So if you're just a person, just a court reporter, you are the key to this campaign. We will provide for you work. If you don't know what to post on social media, we'll help. We'll give you hints. If you're interested and you can change your profile pic for a while on your Facebook account and have folks ask you questions, what's that all about? Go for it. If you're more interested and you tend to give presentations to your local high schools, we'll make sure that you have material and collateral there that match this campaign. If there are things that you need that are not on the Resource Center, I encourage you to use my contact information, to use the contact information on the campaign website. Reach out to us, tell us what you need, and we'll do everything we can to get it there. We need this to be a huge wave of support, a huge, kind of like we do, National Court Reporting and Captioning Week. We've only done that for a couple of years and it's been so wickedly successful. So we're looking forward to doing the same kind of thing here, but with something that matters even more than just tooting our own horn with a national publicity campaign. This is about students. More kids, more students in, more students out of court reporting programs, and then suddenly that opportunity that the Ducker report talks about isn't so scary. So we have some real long-term viability there. I would love to hear your questions. Anna's here as well. So who's still awake and who bought me a latte? No? My friend, Viola, please.
Yesterday, we heard the number 5,500 and you're asking 5,000. Why wouldn't you use 5,000?
It's a little bit of a marketing campaign ploy. If you ever notice, one of the things they teach you in marketing spaces is if you put $5 period 99, your brain sees $5.99 and actually feels like it's more expensive than if you just write $6. $6 feels cheaper. Your brain doesn't get hung up on it. So the number, obviously, there are more than 5,000. So we're not lining up. But the idea is when you see 5,000, your brain just quickly goes over it and doesn't get hung up on processing, wait, what was that number? So some of it's just because of the audience we're talking to, and it's that keep it simple, sweet.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Is New Jersey included in New York? In the numbers from New York? Because in New Jersey we're short reported. So I'm wondering, and it doesn't look like it's being focused on New Jersey. So I want to know if New Jersey is included.
Yes, please note that, so her question is, are the numbers from New Jersey rolled into the numbers from New York because, it doesn't look like the campaign focuses on New York. Let me apologize and just let me clarify. Even though we have these 4 states that the heavy media dollars are going toward in terms of the Google tracking ads and things like that, it doesn't mean that we ignore the rest of the states. We truly do not. So there are campaigns, we're able to leverage cheaper online technology to have the campaign go nationwide. But because the biggest shortages and the biggest career opportunities are in the areas of New York, California, Illinois, in Texas, making sure that potential students who are looking into these programs and looking into this career go, well, if I go to Texas, I can guarantee a job. There's definitely going to be opportunity in 5 years. So we're not ignoring the folks who aren't in that category, but those are kind of like, you know, because we don't have just an endless pool of marketing dollars, it's a little bit more where the focus will go. Now, having said that, that's more the paid side of things. When it comes to PR and social media outreach, that is peanut butter, baby. I mean, that is all over the country, and it won't depend whether there's a surplus in New Jersey or a deep shortage in New Jersey. We will make sure that this campaign goes nationwide. And it's also why you guys all just got an education in marketing. You know, because we're going to make sure that, you know, the national campaign can do this much, but if we get the NCRA membership involved, then we can clearly go here. Go ahead.
Sorry.
One more.
In the schools, they're New Jersey NCRA accredited schools,
Yep.
correct? That if you're not accredited, you are not included in this.
Now, here's the distinction on that. If you are NCRA participating or accredited, you are eligible for the co-op dollars. If you're not, that doesn't mean you can't use the campaign. I mean, this is public, and we did it for the profession. So if there are NCRA, or if there are programs out there that are not certified by NCRA, they can clearly download that ad and go right ahead and use it. But obviously, only the leads and the marketing dollars at this point are available to NCRA accredited and participating schools. You're welcome. Other questions? Yes, ma'am. Ms. Lori.
I know locally we're going to target the law schools because one of the professors there recommended it. So I'm wondering if NCRA is going to follow up and target any advertising to law schools across the United States, because right now there's not as many openings for lawyers as there used to be, is what I've been told, and we've been asked to come and market there so that students have other options.
So the question is, are we going to market toward law schools because of some of the excess supply in the law school arena, the lawyer arena? The answer is that we, NCRA, are not going to do that. But because we need to stay very focused on our audiences because of the money. You know, we have to stay very focused on what we're going to do. But that's the beauty of the platform of the campaign, where if that is something in your local marketplace that could be very, very successful, we're going to make sure that all this collateral is available. You go ahead and help yourself. And you can, if you don't have money to pay to put it in their newsletter, then print out some color copies and take it on down and hang it on their bulletin board. So this is the beauty of the campaign, is that if NCRA isn't doing it and it works for you in your local areas, go to the website, look at the list of the resources, take it, customize it for your use, and take it out to the public where you know it will have some effect.
Christina?
Yes, ma'am.
How soon do you think those graphics will be available?
Some of them are up there right now.
No, those ones with the pictures, so that like we can take them to college fairs in September.
Yeah, some of them are there right now.
So then we can just take the Latin out and put our own language in, or how do you want to, I mean, it's available now to actually go to.
So go to the site is, I can guarantee that it'll all be built out by September 8th. That's our target. But go look, because there are things that are up there live, and then there are some that are like coming soon. So go see what's there and just watch it. It's going to continue to evolve.
Thank you.
How is the funding going to be maintained for the campaign? Is there going to be a special fund that can be contributed to by individual reporters or firm owners to try to keep this?
Oh, that's amazing. The question is, will we be able to create a pool of money that individual members, firm owners could contribute to and keep this going? The answer is, that's a great thought, I don't know. Where we're at right now is that your board of directors authorized a substantial investment. In fact, it was interesting because the board had to look at basically pulling some money from the savings account. And they decided if ever something to spend the money on, this is it and now's the time. So we start with this pool of money and we have a 1-year plan, and then we'll go from there. So I actually don't know if this is something that works and we see folks flooding court reporting programs, then you all are very smart people, and I have a feeling you'll figure it out. Like, I have a feeling we'll keep it going. More questions? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, hi. I'm also a college instructor court reporting program, and in the state of California, they are now requiring that we present in specific employment data
Okay.
for our county and surrounding counties to actually prove that there are jobs out there.
Wow, that's pretty intense, my friend.
Yes, and our own research, department within the college has not been able to find most of the jobs. So we're sending out surveys, but any help that could be given, this is going to be something that's going to be California-wide, since it's one of the larger areas.
So what the Industry Outlook Report Executive Summary does have tables in the back that lists all 50 states. And it shows the current state of the profession, how many stenographic reporters exist right now, and then the projected supply, the projected demand, and whether there's a surplus or a shortfall. In some cases, these numbers again have been confirmed. One of the questions earlier in the session was about how do you know that? How did you do that, right? So in some cases, especially if there's a state certification board, then we can confirm those numbers, or line it up against NCRA numbers. In some states that maybe don't require certification, we had to use some modeling and some projections based on kind of triangulated approach from the researchers. And so we might be close, we might be a little off. There's a couple points with that. Number one is that this report can be updated over time and we'll get better and better. There's contact information in the report, so if any of you are wondering about the numbers on a state level, you're more than welcome to give feedback and say, I don't know if that's exactly right, we may want to look at that for next time. But ultimately, for a state like California, we certainly don't have it county by county, but you can at least give the big picture, not only for what it is right now, but where it's going to go in 5 years. And again, because it's independently produced and verified, it's kind of nice that it's not like that we made those numbers up, but that that it's been researched by a very trained economics team. So it's kind of cool. Any other questions? We're kind of winding through. All right. So I want to just thank you guys. I mean, this was a very early session. It was also intense. I bet you feel sort of like you walked your water. Thank you so much for being here. And we're here. Come talk to us if you have any questions. Have a great conference, and thank you for coming. You're welcome.
Will this be available?
Huh?
That whole recording?
I'm
I know it's live stream, it'll be like logins or later other people on the NCRA side.
It would probably be on crtakenote.com.
All that, like that Ducker stuff.
The Ducker report will actually be, an overview will be downloadable. So you'll be able to look at the overview, see the link back there about how student graduate in California stuff. You'll be able to read the overarching report and download it in the resource center.
That's a lot of work for you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. We're looking forward to working with you. Bye.
I love it.
Go ahead.